everyone. I hope everyone's doing great. We are continuing with our relationship series. So, for those who are just joining for the first time, make sure that you have done the previous sessions, which is the relationship on yourself. You cannot engage in any sort of relationship, romantic or otherwise, if you have not done some work on yourself to figure out the relationship that you want to have with yourself first. So make sure you do that. And also, a couple of announcements before I begin today's topic. Of course, Superhuman is on Amazon Prime, the movie, but I am doing an amazing conference. You guys, you have to join this conference February 27th. It is online, so you can just join. It is about the blindfold. We're going to have live demonstrations from kids and adults doing blindfold, reading blindfolded, doing all kinds of stuff, but also not just those guys, but I'm going to be with Dean Radin and Tom Campbell. It's going to be an amazing panel. So, and you guys will get to see these demonstrations live and ask questions. So it's going to be incredible. So the way you sign up is, if you haven't received the newsletter, you should sign up for a newsletter so you know what we're up to. You should subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so. But also go to superhumanfilm.com, go to classes, and you will see that listing on that page. It's Blindfold Online Conference. Okay, so I hope to see you there. In fact, I have several conferences lined up. You know, I'm doing Conscious Life Expo, Contact in the Desert, all these conferences are coming up. So it's going to be a lot of fun. That's the good news about the COVID situation, doing everything online so more people can join. Okay, so today, the conversation is about romantic relationships. See, I wore the color that matches the topic, I guess. But anyway, so romantic relationships are very happening right now in terms of what's coming up for people. Like I said many times, a lot of people seem to have been struggling with relationships. And what I mean by romantic, it's not like just being in love. I'm addressing all the people who are in a partnership, married, in a committed relationship, they live together. So these are the people that we are addressing today, but also the single folks who want to attract such a long-term relationship or a committed relationship. So I will start first with the people who are already partners, life partners, one way or another. Like I said, whether it's a marriage or just, living together. Because it's very interesting. I'm seeing this trend that many of those people broke up just before the pandemic, which is interesting because then you get to be on your own and kind of start a new life, figuring things out on your own. Or because or through this whole pandemic situation, they are struggling and they're having to figure out how to maybe go their separate ways or what have you. So that's the reason why, because I receive so many of those emails, but also because I work with so many people, it seems to be a very, very happening thing right now. So I hope the information that I will share with you will be helpful. So today, first, I will talk about the people who are in partnership. So if you are single trying to attract a relationship, just, be patient. We're going to get to that later on. So the first thing that I want to say about being in a partnership is now you're not creating alone. There's another person creating with you. So you cannot, you have to take into account everything that you want, everything that you desire, everything that your goals are in life. You have to take into account this other person. So basically, the bottom line, or in general, there's this dynamic that you have to take into account that is at the base of the problem. So because of that, you cannot just say, I'm struggling, this is what I want, without knowing the dynamic. You have to understand the dynamic between the two people. But even before we even get there, I think I'd like to address something very important, which is our belief systems. Our belief systems are based on society, or what we learn, coming into this reality. We think, or we want to think, that a partnership, a committed relationship, or marriage is something that happens for a lifetime. For some reason, it's a human belief system that we think that that is very romantic. And it probably is. How beautiful is it to share your life with someone else, and to go through the ups and downs or whatever, and be able to do it together with another person. But to be honest, I really think this is a human agreement. This is a human belief system that we kind of got used to. So the problem is, when that doesn't happen, which is more often than not, then we think something is wrong. When we are in a beautiful committed relationship and all of a sudden we feel like it's going to be over, we think something is wrong because of this preconceived belief system that it shouldn't be that way. We're supposed to, till death do us part. To me, when I say that word, just feels very daunting. Is it really, or is it something we just learn to accept? And so because of this, we have to reassess and really understand and get rid of the programming that every relationship, every serious relationship we have, has to be long-term, meaning for the entire life. Otherwise, it didn't work, or you failed. This is such a difficult thing to live with, because as you know, most people cannot make it. Of course, some people can, but most people cannot stay together their entire life, or don't stay together. So to me, I want to go back to the prenatal contract. I personally believe that we come in already agreeing to be in this relationship or that relationship, especially when we're talking about long term, or something like a partner. You end up getting married or living together or something like that. So it's not random. We want to think, oh, synchronicities, it was a blind date, or is the brother of this guy that I knew, or we worked together or something. And all of a sudden, it just like we realize we were in love. Well, I don't think so. I really think that you actually program this. Speaking of programming, you intend to come in with this person at a certain time. You think, okay, I'm going to create this situation so that I end up meeting this person, so that we end up having this important relationship together. That's how it really works. But of course, we come in, we forget, but also we also want to forget a little bit, because we want that element of surprise. We want that element of synchronicity. It's very romantic, speaking of which. And so because of that, we don't realize that our prenatal agreement says, yes, I am meant to meet this person and have something very profound with them. But is it really meant to be for an entire lifetime? That is really case by case. And to be honest with you, I think very rarely it is one person that is meant to share your life in this way for an entire lifetime. Again, this is not to diminish how beautiful that is. Yes, why not? But in general, and there are many reasons for this, because you are here to do many things. You are not here to just come in and have children with this one person and then live happily ever after. You're maybe here to explore and evolve in so many different ways. So why not, if this one person does not want to share or cannot share the exact same goal, then there's something wrong. There's something wrong. This relationship is perhaps meant to be to have those kids together, to learn how to be parents with that particular person. But then I am meant to come together with another person at a later time, when it's the right time, obviously, to explore something else. Maybe with this other person, I'm exploring my sexuality or something else, or I'm exploring, maybe creating something together. Maybe it's about working together. And so that's why I really think you need to let go, deprogram yourself of the idea that it must be this way till death do us part. And also, there's another thing. You have to, usually when you come in already with a prenatal agreement with someone, it usually goes in cycles. Usually it's 7-year cycle or 3.5-year cycle. And so it's kind of like you come in with that person knowing that, okay, at age, I don't know, 27, I'm going to meet you and we're going to do 2 Earth cycles together. That's 14 years. Or we're going to do half a cycle together. Depending on what your individual contract is, prenatal contract is, you're going to agree to meet at a certain time, but also to for a certain time, because that agreement is an energy exchange that needs to last, that needs to progress through the time space continuum, and therefore it's going to be in cycles. So what I'm trying to say is, if you've been together for half a cycle, so 3.5 years, and things started to go wrong, or issues start to come up after, then it's probably that you're meant to be together half a cycle. If it's past the 3.5 years. If you've been together 7 years and then things start to go wrong, well, perhaps you are meant to be together one cycle and then to reassess what needs to happen. All this to say also that it goes in cycles, but it doesn't mean that you are stuck in this cycle. You still have a choice. So, for example, let's say I've signed up to be with this man for one cycle, but then once it's over, we create all these problems and these fights and things like that. But it doesn't mean necessarily that I must end it. It's really case by case for you to really figure out, is this really time to part ways, or is it for me to work through it? And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to share with you specific tools, or at least maybe a checklist of things that you can do to find out, wait, I'm struggling right now. Is it because it is time to part ways, or is it because it is for me to figure things out and stay together, you see? And so that's what we're going to talk about, because the idea, like I said, we're talking about issues, we're talking about struggles in romantic relationships. If everything is fine, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. And so that's kind of what you need to remember. Your belief system. What is your belief system? If you truly, truly, truly deep inside feel that you must be with the same person for your entire lifetime, then take the time. What you can do is feel it out, ask the question and notice how you feel. Then say, I ask and intend to release the programming that I must stay with the same person for an entire lifetime. Otherwise, I would have failed at my relationship. I ask to delete, to release this belief system from every cell in my brain, every cell in my skull, every cell in my body, my conscious, subconscious, and cellular memory. That's how you deprogram. Breathe in. When you exhale, you imagine that things are flowing, they're coming out of your head, coming out of your body and being released. Okay? So do this little exercise first, and then let's go to figure out if what is wrong, why everything is fine for a while. Of course, we are hoping that things will be fantastic forever and ever, but then all of a sudden we're struggling. What is the deal with that? Well, the first thing also you have to remember, like I said earlier, you are in a dynamic. You're not alone. If you're alone in your own house, you could do whatever you want to. It only will affect you. If you want to sit on the couch and watch TV all day and not do laundry and not do anything, it only affects you. So it's no problem. But when you have another person that is there, it's going to affect them. You cannot just do anything that you want without affecting the other person. So it's not just the physical interaction, it's also energetic. In other words, when you are together, you exchange this energy. And even when this person is far away, you've already entangled. You are already entangled. And so because of that, even when you energetically, so in your body, in your cells, the frequency of that person is in your body and vice versa. Think about that. So the good news is that's how you remain connected. When you are far away and everything is fine, you remain connected because of this entangled energy, and that's beautiful. But then when you're not getting along, that's a big, big problem. So you have to also take the time to split, to let go, to detach. No one should be attached or latching on to your actual selves, even the people you love, especially the people you love, because you're kind of allowing them to be part of you. So everything, but in a not so healthy way. So everything that you are, every time you think, everything that you do kind of involves them in a way. And you don't want that. You want to be who you are, and share your love with this other person. So the energetic entanglement is an issue. And that's why we get on each other's nerves. That's why we can't figure out where the problem is. And that's why we get triggered big time, because we are so energetically entangled. Same thing. Take the time to disentangle yourself from the frequency of this person so that you are really just you. There's nothing, it doesn't mean you're separate. It doesn't mean you're not allowing them in. Again, this is a perception, a belief system. It's quite the opposite. What you're doing is letting go of their frequency, the part of their frequency that's latching onto you. And that's not healthy for you, and that's not healthy for them. So that is the part of the letting go that you want to do. So same thing, every time you notice something that is not really what you want or that is misaligned, just sit for a moment and do exactly what I just did. It's a formula. Just say, I ask and intend to detach the frequency of my husband or my children. We'll talk about family later. Right now it's the partner. To release the frequency of my husband or my wife from every cell in my body, from every cell in my brain, from my conscious, subconscious, and cellular memory. Breathe in, you exhale, and then you will feel things detaching. If you don't feel it, if you sit for a moment, if you're sensitive enough, most people will end up feeling lighter. Why lighter? Because something left you. So very, very important. And so somebody's asking, is there such a thing as good energetic entanglement? Yes, it's when you are entangled through love, you know, but they are not latching onto your body. They're not latching onto your physical brain. They are part of your higher, larger energy field. Very, very different. Then this is the merging that you guys, I taught you how to merge together. When the energies merge together, it's not necessarily your physical cells or your physical brain and you're latching onto each other. No, this is the beautiful way of connecting, which is your higher self and their higher self are now entangled and merging together to create this oneness, which translates into physical sensation. Now, that is beautiful. And the reason why this is healthy and good, it is because it is not the physical aspect, it's not the human you that is taking on somebody else's frequency. That's not the same thing. So, anyway, this is a very, very important distinction. So, take the time to figure out, are you entangled in a healthy way or not in a not so healthy way? And so if you're not sure, then just intend for the latching on entanglement to be released if you're not clear. And so again, same thing. You sit up, you visualize that you are going inside your body, and you just say, you intend, I ask to release the attachment, the latching on part of the frequency of this person from every cell in my body, from every cell in my brain, my conscious, subconscious, cellular memory. You breathe in, and as you exhale, you detach from your physical cells, and you keep it in your higher self part of your aspect of your being. So that's very important. So all of these things contribute to issues, contribute to the confusion as to what is happening. Because again, it's this dynamic. You're not alone. You are constantly figuring things out, living your life, and there's this other entity that is part of you all the time. So it's very difficult. That's why a romantic relationship, partnership could be beautiful and amazing, but can also be extremely hard. And so that's for the entanglement portion. Make sure the belief, the entanglement. Of course, another thing we have to talk about is sex. Now, that is another huge area that is extremely confusing to people. Sex is part of a romantic relationship, a partnership, long-term relationship, those types of relationship. And you have to, I mean, again, part of the belief system, society tells us that sex, it depends. There are different belief systems. Sex is dirty, or sex, you shouldn't have sex, or once you have sex, you're supposed to marry the person. Of course, we're not at this age, although some people are. But the point is, the connection between sex and partnership is the problem. So we have to figure out what is the exact belief system that we have about sex. And so to me, sex is a problem because there's a variety of sex. In other words, to me, it's a vibration. It's a frequency. And so there's the level of sex that is to procreate and or maybe just to have pleasures, physical pleasures of the flesh, of the body. We do have a physical body, obviously. And so is it just to feel things and explore how much you can feel this way, or how much you can feel, doing things this way or that way? So there's one type of vibration, I want to say. It's a frequency of procreation, or a frequency of just having sexual pleasures to please the physical body, and that's that. And then there's another vibration, the vibration that you are engaging in sexual behavior because you want to experience not just the physical senses, but more. It's more of a spiritual, I want to say, connection. So you are using, or you are exploring. Speaking earlier, I was talking about this beautiful energetic merging that is of your higher consciousness. So it's in the same way. It's that sort of merging of the two energies that come together are so beautiful, that also give you physical sensation. Now we're talking about sex, but in the sense of not just to satisfy the body, like, hey, I have this urge, and especially men, again, not to judge, but a lot of women too have urges. But I'm talking about programming. Unfortunately, that is a big problem. That's why we're so confused. And so, going back to what I was saying, the good part is, so you are now enjoying or using the physical sensation of the body to feel more than just the body. You are feeling energies, you are feeling your spiritual self, your divine self. You are feeling a profound sense of love, a profound sense of caring, a profound sense of oneness. We're talking at a whole different level of connection through sex. And that is precisely what confuses things, what brings us trouble. Because usually we want to relate sex to these beautiful feelings. We want to engage in sex, in general, anyway, to have not just the physical sensation, but this really profound sense of love, this sense of oneness with another human. We happen to be here on the earth plane, but also to expand, because there is something like, there's a high, when you reach those higher vibration. I'm not talking about the orgasm and on a human, on a physical level. I'm talking about this spiritual level, when it's so sensual. The senses are so awakened that it's a high. It's literally a sense of oneness with another individual, and through that you are oneness with the divine and your spirituality. So now that is a whole different vibrational state. And that is the problem, because usually, in general, one person wants to have sex just to have sex, to enjoy, but the other person wants this other type of sex. And that is the reason why there is a disconnect. Or I see that a lot. Once we get, for people who are on a spiritual path, it's kind of a little bit like the money thing. Like, if you are on a spiritual path, you should do everything for free. You shouldn't make money. The same thing with sex. I noticed that people who are on a spiritual path, at one point, they are vibrating at such a high level that they start to feel like, do I really need to feel, or I don't really feel that my body needs that, you see? And so then it starts to be strange, because, well, your partner still wants that, for example, and then you don't. So again, it's the disconnect of how you are viewing sex and what it is that you want out of this experience, which can still be worked out. But if you're not clear why, what level of sex you really want to have, vibration anyway, and what the other person wants, like I said, the idea now it's a dynamic. It's two of you. You're not the only one. And so because of this, we get very confused, and sex become a disaster, a problem. So, we sleep together. Then a typical scenario, I don't mean to kind of, but seriously, a typical scenario from the guy's perspective: oh, I slept with this girl, now she wants to get married. Wait, I'm not ready. That's not what I meant by having sex with her. You see? So that's a problem. The other way around: oh, I slept with this guy, and he's ghosting me now, but I thought he loved me. Again, so that is the problem, because one person comes in into this sexual encounter with two different goals or different belief systems. So isn't that typical? It is typical. And it becomes also a problem during a relationship. So during the relationship, we all know it starts out very romantic and very sexy, speaking of which, but then eventually it evolves. So because we have kids, because I don't know, we're busy and whatever. And so this is another disconnect that starts to happen, where one person still wants to have sex and explore this and that, and the other person wants something different. So that's the reason why we have to continuously in partnership ask the question, reassess, is this partnership meant to be more of a friendship, just raising the kids and that's it? Or is sex important to us? And how do we deal with that? And so, or what type of sex am I interested in? What type of sex are you interested in? It's all vibration. And like I said, once you evolve spiritually, you are on a higher vibration. So you want a different type of sex, perhaps, but maybe the other person can't give you that or is not there yet. So point being, this is another huge area of programming that gets us in trouble. All right. So that's another thing. You can take the time to start to feel, what is your belief system? Where are you at? Because it is with two people, it is an issue. It is something that will come up, that is probably coming up, and that is going to be part of the quandary. So now you are in a relationship, you're a partnership. How do you know that you're in trouble? Is this just like a passing thing? We're just kind of getting on each other's nerves. It's going to be okay. Or is there something different that's building up? Other than, like I said, going back to the cycle thing and the general terms in terms of belief system, now your daily life is starting to be difficult. And so to me, you have to really start paying attention. Of course, it's kind of an obvious thing. If you are fighting all the time, but some of those fights are so big that you literally need to kind of like, I can't even be in the presence of that person. And you need to totally dissociate yourself, go somewhere else, whatever, just to even figure out what just happened. And you kind of come back, you talk it out, and then you're okay for a week or two, maybe 3, and then it happens again. If you find yourself in this cycle where you have this big blowout and that keep repeating, because every time it gets better, but only for a couple of weeks, then you are probably in trouble. Your relationship is in trouble. And again, when I say trouble, it just means, okay, something needs to happen. So that's of course one indication, which is quite obvious. But also it's your feeling. How do you feel in the relationship, in the presence of this person? Do you find yourself constantly irritated, or you have anxiety all the time, or like you feel suffocating all the time, even if this person is in the other room doing their own thing, or as they pass your the living room or what have you, you just like kind of cringe on the inside. So if you find yourself having those feelings of all the time, then again, and all the time, of course, I'm sure some days you can basically ignore it, but that's ignoring it. What I'm saying is, if you're having those feelings quite often, let's say, again, this is time to think, perhaps the relationship is in trouble. Let's just see what that's about. It's okay. So that's, this is how you, another big indication. I remember when I was in a relationship, I was in several. Um, and then I kind of recognized the pattern for me when it started to be not so much fight. I'm not a big like fighter, but more like when even the person is in the other room or doing something else, but inside I would feel like suffocating, or whatever they say or they do triggers me. That's it. This is the time to sit down and say, okay, what's going on here? This your guidance system is telling you the dynamic between the two is off, because of course the idea is the dynamic between the two is to be always harmonious. I mean, we all want that in anything. Once in a while, of course, hey, you forgot to buy this, you forgot to do this with the kids, or of course, this is nothing. These are little thingies that that you do even with your friends. But I'm talking about the big stuff, where the person you can't, triggers you constantly, and you're in this constant state of like, no matter what the person does or says. So that is a big red flag, a major red flag. Another thing is for you to take the time to notice how you feel about the relationship. We talked about that in the previous sessions, but take the time. Uh, do I feel loved? Really, really loved by this person? Do I feel respected by this person? Do I feel that I'm having fun? Am I having fun with this person? So all of these questions, also, do I feel free? And again, free in a relationship doesn't mean you're going to go out and sleep with 10 other people. This is a misconception. Free means that you are yourself and you express yourself and you feel good. You can just be yourself without the other person being triggered or being annoyed by you or telling you what to do or whatever. You feel really you in the relationship. So do you really feel free? Do I feel really, really free? Or am I constantly kind of like worried, like, oh, if I do this, she's going to get mad or he's going to get mad or whatever, so freedom is a huge point. I had those spelled out for you in the previous video, but it's basically the same. Also, am I having fun? Am I being stimulated in this relationship? This is very important because boredom is not like people say, oh, it's normal. We've been married 10 years or whatever. I'm used to her. No, it doesn't really work this way. We are here to create, to evolve. So if we are in a relationship or a job or anything, and it's very stagnant, it's stale, I don't really even care what he does anymore, or he doesn't care about what I do. There's no stimulation that is happening. To me, that is also a very big red flag. It means that you are just going with the flow, just that it's easy, it's comfortable, it's familiar, it is whatever, and might as well just not worry about it. So obviously this doesn't work because like I said, our natural state of being is love. So we want to be able to give love and receive love freely. That is our natural state of being. It's joy. So if you're not having fun, you're misaligned with you. It's really joy, and it's about evolving. You're here to evolve. When you're stagnant, it's almost like the universe is evolving and you're stagnant. So you are in contradiction with the natural pull of the universal flow, if you want. You see, the universe is moving, but you're kind of like sitting there. You're not flowing. And so these aren't, some people say, well, I have we have kids right now. It's different. What's the big deal if we don't have fun, if we don't do stuff together? I don't agree, again, because your natural state of being is not being addressed. You're not being your universal self, you see, and eventually it catches up with you. And that's why men end up having affairs, or women, we start having, looking outside. And we start to look outside, because we look at the home as the comfortable, safe, thing that works. It works for just that. Like, he takes care of the kids, and I'm used to it. I have a home, but above my head, I'm very comfortable here. What's my problem? So let me keep that. But honestly, deep inside, I'm bored as hell. I'm just not enjoying my life, and I don't feel loved. I want to feel loved and adored. You see what I mean? And so I start to look outside. So this is where the affairs start to happen, or the non-monogamous relationship, where I tell the husband, well, you're not having we're not having sex anymore. Are you okay with me having another relationship? And then this whole, I want to talk a little bit about this, this open relationship thing, because I see it actually quite often, not a lot, but sometimes. And people are confused, like, why can't we have multiple partners at the same time? Of course you can. But since we're not supposed to be with one person till death do us part, why not? So, and yeah, if that is the agreement that you have with yourself and with those multiple partners, then that's that. But I can tell you this. I've worked with so many people, and I know a lot of people who were in these types of relationship. And to be honest, it never works. It always ends up that somebody gets hurt. Somebody gets hurt. Even in the Mormon, the cultures where everybody does that, and that's normal. So at least it's aligned with their belief system or society, and it's accepted in this way. But deep inside, like I said, your natural state is to be with someone, not just to procreate, not just to have sex, not just to have a roof over your head and make a life together. It's really the core of you is to be love, to receive love, to give joy, to receive joy, and to expand. And what happens is, when there are multiple people with all their different levels of reality, and multiple, and going through life, going through different circumstances, different challenges, or what have you, things change. So you start by saying, hey, we're modern, we're very cool, it's okay, I'll let my husband do, but then he always comes back to me, and we have this really strong, yes, maybe it works for a while. I know this guy who was living with 3 women at the same time, under the same roof, and they all got along, and it was, obviously very interesting. And of course, they were sharing the bed, they're sharing everything. And so, yeah, it was great. So it worked out for a while, until one person got hurt, then the other person got hurt. So is there something wrong with that? No, you could do whatever your heart tells you to do. I'm just saying, don't convince yourself that that is the what suits you, because it's going to fulfill all of your dreams, because this person can fulfill this for me, this other person can fulfill this other thing for me. What I'm saying, at the core of you, this union is with another person, is divine, is profound, and there's a lot of energy that goes into it. And if you're really truthful, and you are coming together with one person, and then you split that with 2 other people, then it's almost like it's only a part of you that is exploring this relationship. And it's okay. Like I said, hey, we're here to explore all kinds of stuff. But my point is, it's not the full you. We are here not just to explore these, but we are here to fulfill a higher destiny. We're not here to just have physical experiences. So when we have a prenatal contract and we come in, part of this experience is to understand who I am, to understand what my body does, how my body feels, and what my body wants to express. Yes, 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 but not without or in unison or in alignment with my higher consciousness, you see? And when you put the two together, you will be drawn to merge or to be with a person with the full you. Again, this does not mean that you have to be with them for the rest of your, with one person. I'm saying as you come together, it's on many different levels. It's sex, it's physical, it's mental, emotional, but it's also spiritual, is what I'm saying. And if you're really authentic and truthful to yourself, you will find that eventually splitting up your energy is harder than what you might think. Anyway, that was my thing. So the idea is going back. How do you know you're in trouble? Is because of how you really feel. And if you don't have these three main component, do I truly feel, am I free in this relationship? Am I stimulated? Am I growing? Do we even, our personalities, do we get along? Do we communicate? Are we able to communicate? Communication is a huge thing, because if one person wants to communicate and the other one doesn't, forget it. I mean, you could be figuring things out all you want for the other person. It doesn't work. Again, there's two of you, so you both want to communicate. You both want the same thing. That's another thing. Like I said, you both have to decide, this is the type of sex that I want. What type of sex do you want? This is the type of lifestyle that I want. What type of lifestyle do you want? If one person wants to have kids and stay home and the other person doesn't, this is a big issue. Obviously, if one person wants to travel, the world and not have a permanent home, and the other person is like, no, my family's here, I need to stay, that's not going to work. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, we don't realize that even if we engage in a partnership, getting along in the beginning, along the way, what you want and what they want is going to change. And that's why you start to clash. You clash because what you want and what they want is no longer matching. So that's how one communication problems, the feeling, obviously, and the fights, obviously, that have this pattern that are not going away. So here we are, we're in trouble. Okay. So how do you know that it's time to call it quits, or is this for me to work through things? That's another thing, because especially in relationships where there are kids involved, it's like, wait, we've been married, 20 years or whatever. And it's not an easy discussion. It's not an easy decision. Does that mean we just throw everything out, everything we've done together? That's another misconception that, it's a failure. And so, but it's a big decision when kids are involved and other things. Sometimes it's work. Sometimes you're tied through a business, partnership or something that's quite significant. Sometimes it could be, sometimes it's money, material things, whatever. And so how do you know that it is time to call it quits versus no, it's just time for me to try to sort it out? Well, everything that I just said, are you getting, first of all, you notice that, again, on the intimate point, from an intimate point of view, you want different things. So how do you cope with that? Are you okay if the other person doesn't want to have sex and you want to have sex in this way or whatever, 3 times a week or what have you? Are you okay with not having sex with them, so that what I'm saying is you have to start to decide, is this something I can live with? If again is the next thing, or the most important thing, is if there's no communication. Like, it's almost like sometimes you talk but there's no communication. So you talk to each other, but it's almost the other person doesn't really hear you. And so it's almost like you find yourself. I was in one relationship, I remember, where the other person was always like, whenever there was a problem, the person would zone out. So it's like, okay, but if there's this problem, I mean, we need to resolve it, for you and for me. And so if the person is communicating, so they're sitting there, they're kind of talking to you, but they're not really talking to you, well, that's a big problem, because this means that this is not going to work. You can try all you want. This is something that will not work. It's probably a red flag, and probably a sign to start thinking about, am I calling it quits? But also, you start to feel, this is when do you feel that this is time to call it quits, the beginning of the end. You start to feel no connection. It's almost like, as much as you were connected with this person, like you used to think that they were hot, or they were cute, or they were fun or something, but all of a sudden you don't have that connection anymore. You don't think it's fun anymore to, when they, you used to do these things together, and you almost have no connection, in the sense that it doesn't really matter. Like, they could do it or not, it doesn't really affect you that much. So that sort of neutral feeling, to me, is a red flag. It doesn't mean that you have to love everything that the other person does, but it's kind of a sense of, I lost that connection, to who they are, to what they do, how they do things. I used to get turned on when he would, for example, I don't know, handle a business situation, or when he handles this and that. So it's just small things like that that used to kind of keep this admiration, or this curiosity, or this fun, whatever that is. And that is gone. It's almost like, oh, okay, it's just matter of fact. And so that's another red flag, which probably is pointing, it's, of course, it's several things. It's not just one thing, but I'm pointing out all of the red flags that are probably making you, it's probably making you think that it's probably time, or perhaps consider that you may be heading to two different paths, separate paths. Another thing is, you notice that so much better when you're alone. When they're gone, you feel so much better. And not only that, but you can visualize, you can imagine yourself much better off down in the future when you're alone or with someone else. If you can sit in a space and begin to feel that, you know what, I feel so much better. I feel so expanded. I feel so happy when I'm alone, rather than being with this person, or with someone else. Then that is a major red flag. That this is probably the beginning of the end. Again, I don't like to say end or breaking up, whatever. Just the next chapter. Let's call it that. Next chapter. Also, I feel like it's all of these kind of red flags that are kind of subtle. But what I recommend that you do is to sit with them and really, really take the time to decide. And also, as you do that, you start to bring up certain things that are coming up for you. So, for example, as you sit down and you start to notice that, hey, I'm so much happier, I'm so much freer when I'm alone than when I'm with this person, then then it starts to bring up like insecurities, like, can I be alone? Or the guilt, like, I think it's time for me to move on. And what if I'm hurting his feeling? What if he's not ready? What is the kid, of course, especially if there are kids involved. And so there's all these other things that come up that are actually have been kind of in the background, in the subconscious mind, all of these fears about you. So this means about fear about changes, fear about the unknown, fear of the future. All of this will come up for you to resolve, because you shouldn't have those fears anyway. You shouldn't be in a relationship, at the brink of splitting up, to manage those fears. This is the time for you to, regardless of the relationship, even if I am in a happy relationship, I shouldn't have the fear of being alone. One of the problems also in one of the relationships I've had is that when we took time apart, and it's not in a bad way, like, hey, I'm going to go off with a girlfriend and do this, or I'm going to visit my mom, do that, or something. So not like we need time apart. So even in those times, I wasn't feeling or thinking there's something wrong, and I didn't feel alone. I missed him, but I didn't feel like, oh my God, I can't be without this person, whereas he did. See? And so that's an issue when you when you are alone, and can't even and that's triggering just fear of being alone. This is a big problem, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the fear of being alone, even when you are in a relationship, is going to manifest itself as a lack of intimacy, or a lack of all kinds of problems, in other words. And so what I'm saying is, you have to be at peace with you being okay with being alone first, before you can have a healthy relationship with someone. So that's another very, very important point. But also the guilt. So the guilt's going to come up. Okay, so I feel fine alone. I'm very happy. I'm ready to move on. But then he's going to suffer, or he can't be alone, or the kids, or so on and so forth. So just a general thing is, when you are clear on what you want and the other person isn't, you still have to say what you want. You still have to express what you want. You can say it. For example, I am 100% clear. I want to free myself from this relationship. I feel like the cycle has been completed for me. And I'm 100% convinced that I now want to be free to explore other relationships or be on my own. And so, but I want to do this in alignment with the other person. And if the other person isn't ready, I can still intend for it to not hurt anyone. So I could say, this is what I want. I want my freedom. I want to feel loved. I want to be with this other person, whatever it is, without hurting anyone. When you say that, you're also putting out, first of all, you're starting things in motion. But when you're saying without hurting anyone, you are not going to attract the drama. You're not going to, so things will start to resolve themselves, maybe not overnight, but I'm saying gradually unfold, so that no one's hurt. Everybody gets hurt even if you have a job and you leave the job, there's moments of sadness. I mean, that's like normal. That's the human condition, where when something ends and you are transitioning to something else, there's this moment of, sadness, detachment, like you feel abandoned or what have you. But that's normal. We're talking about major breakdowns where you can't handle, something that just happened. And so that is a big problem. And so having those little sadness that, hey, this is ending, I'm sad, it's okay. But I really, really I have this vision of where I'm going. And so I really want to create that for myself. And because the other person is not ready, I'm just asking, intending for that to be resolved in the most uh, friendly, of course, but also in the most aligned ways. And what I notice more often than not, the other person is thinking the same thing. They're just not there yet, or they're not clear yet, or they don't know how to go about it, or they're afraid to tell you. So you'd be surprised how much, what you are feeling. Like, you're feeling that this is not working, this is not working, this is how I feel. None of this in the relationship are working for me, and it's okay to call it quits. And we're afraid. We're afraid to talk about it, and so on and so forth. But the minute that you do, if the person isn't consciously ready, you will treat. But in unconsciously, they're actually feeling and thinking the same thing. They're confused or afraid to say it. So by you expressing yourself and saying, I'm coming from love, and this is what I really feel, and this is what I really want. I don't want to hurt you, but this is what I'm feeling. Tell me how you feel. Like I said, if the person isn't consciously ready, it may trigger some weird stuff at the beginning, but eventually, I'm telling you, I see that all the time, where the other person is relieved. They're like, oh my God, I'm so glad you said that, because I've been feeling this, but I was afraid to say something. I was afraid to hurt your feelings. I was afraid, so on and so forth. So it's almost like, don't be afraid to bring up that point from a loving place. You're not going to say, I'm leaving you, of course, you know. But what I'm saying is, you would be surprised that this could be helpful to the other person, as opposed to a preconceived idea that by you wanting this and the other person not wanting this, that you may be hurting them. Quite the opposite. Like I said, you could be helping them bring up what they've been thinking or feeling all along, and haven't been able to decide or express or just have clarity on. So that these are all the red flags that, okay, it's time to call it quits. And quits. And again, remember, don't forget to take the time to decide, are you okay? Are you 100% okay with feeling that not all relationships are till death do us part? Are you 100% okay with having sharing your path with different people at different times for different reasons? You see, and so make sure that you are 100% okay, and that's what I suggest you do. Now, how do you know if you should if your relationship? So that's when you all of these red flags are for when it's probably time to call it quits. It's probably the time to just move on with a healthy communication. But how do you know if it's not time to salvage the relationship? What if this whole drama is coming up for you to, struggle through it and, go through therapy and do all that's a valid point too, right? So it's really easy, actually. It is, you can salvage the relationship. First of all, again, communication. If the other person is not willing to communicate or wants to communicate, it will never work. It will never. You can salvage, you can think, oh, fate brought us together, it's all going to be worked out, we have kids together, da da da. Yeah, no. You both have to communicate and say what you both want. I want this relationship to work. I want 100% this relationship to work. And you have to be convinced by saying it. If you're wishy-washy, it's not going to work. So the communication and the exact wanting is at the core of, at least that's the first step to figure out if there is hope to salvage this or not. Because if at one point, like I said, things change, people change, we change. We start off by thinking that we want, I mean, we've seen this very often. I mean, it's all around us. You know, we think we want a husband with kids and the house and the dog. But then after 10 years of that, you're like, wait, that's why a lot of people start to have this midlife crisis, because they realize the other aspect of their being has never been addressed. They weren't having fun. They weren't evolving. They weren't stimulated. They weren't excited. It was just this idea of what love should look like. And, you know, and that's our fate. And that's that. And they're going through the motion. I'm telling you, it doesn't work. So eventually they start to want something different. But perhaps the husband is very happy with how things are. He doesn't want to change. He wants to keep the family. He wants to keep the kids and the dog and the house. But the woman is feeling, or vice versa, or the woman is feeling, I want to go out and travel the world. I want to have a job that I love. I want to explore who I am. I want to do many different things that I was never able to do. Now it's a different, so the wanting doesn't even match. So what do you salvage? There's nothing to salvage, because you're denying what you really, really want, what you are really feeling, and how you see your future. And so so my point being, it's not just a communication, but it's also you want the exact same thing. Of course, as the main point of the relationship, not want to, you know, go out and every single thing throughout the day that you want it the same way. I'm saying the main things in your relationship, including sex. All of a sudden, you know, the guy wants to go and just, you know, have multiple partners because you're the high school sweetheart and he just didn't have a chance. There's nothing wrong with that, you know, but then the guilt and this and that. The woman, same thing. Maybe you are the first one and she's only been with two guys her whole life, you know. So my point being, like, again, you have to want the exact same thing. Otherwise, there's nothing to salvage. Okay. So that's my spiel. Let me see if there's a couple questions, but I want to talk about very briefly people who are single and who are not in a relationship. How do you create that relationship? Let me see. Can you do this for past partners? Yeah, I think we're talking about the entanglement. Absolutely. I'm telling you, probably still entangled with a previous partner. And so it's probably interfering with your current relationship on a subconscious level, because we are entangled all the time. So do it. Yes, yes, yes. And especially if you want to move on, to a new relationship, you want to definitely disentangle. And so you're kind of a clean slate, and then you move on. For which purpose would you agree before birth to meet that specific person? How can we know if yes or no? If we leave, we have honored our spiritual contract. Perfect question. So that's why I'm giving you these checklists, these points, these checklists. So first of all, for you to accept the fact or be okay with the fact that perhaps this person was meant to be you know, your partner for your whole life, or maybe they were meant to just be with you for 10 years, you know, have the kids for a while, and then you're meant to be with another person. So the way you know that you are aligned is when, well, first of all, you could do some kind of a regression thing and really know. But honestly, the checkpoint, the checklist that I gave you, if you really, really follow that, especially if you are saying, I want to be in alignment with the universe flow, with source, I want to be in alignment with my higher contract, then you will receive the guidance according to that. In fact, that's another thing that I say for everything that I do, even if it's a job or a relationship. I say, I want to attract the person that is exactly in alignment with my prenatal contract. So even if you don't know, you don't remember, nobody remembers. So exactly what you said or who you're supposed to meet, you can still intend for the one that is part of the program. I'm at chapter 7 in my life agreement, and now this guy is supposed to come in. And so that's how I know. And guess what? All the others that are contenders will disappear. It will just not happen. That's how, if you intend for your alignment, then it will happen exactly in this way. And then you say it over and over, and then you have to trust that it is happening exactly for you to move on. Okay. And then you would have honored your spiritual contract. Does that make sense? Was that helpful? What is the energy of passion? I feel that when I am more connected, I feel less energy of passion. Yeah. Again, I mean, passion, I think you're talking about lust. You're talking about the physical passion, which again, I think I addressed that. And I said, when people are very spiritually advanced, you start to kind of you're at a different vibration, and that energy of just lust, of that, just like sexual, like just this body pleasure alone thing is just no longer interesting, because it's just a part of you that is having the pleasure. It's not the full divine, spiritual aspect, your fullness that is being expressed. And so there's nothing wrong if some of you start to feel that way. There's nothing wrong with allowing that to happen. If you are spiritually very advanced and then you start to detach from from this lusty kind of, but just, I mean, lust is okay, but if it's only lust, if it's only just about the pleasure of the body, I think, like I said, it's a mismatch vibrationally. And so there's nothing wrong with that, but ask to, if that's what you want. Depends on what you want. But if you want to explore sexuality in a new way, then that is interesting. Ask to, at my spiritual level, I'm not going to lower my vibration to the way I used to be or whatever, or maybe not, but at my level of spiritual vibration, I want to attract a sexual, sensual, whatever, coming together encounter that matches my higher vibration. Now that becomes very divine. All right. Of course, we all know couples that have called it quits, and many are really nervous about starting another relationship after the split. What do you recommend for starting up another relationship? Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to talk about that in a second. One of the most coherent and resonating exploration of a relationship I have heard. Thank you. Oh, okay. You're welcome. Yes, very good. So let's talk about now. You are alone. You are single or you split up. Everybody's had some sort of relationship before. So we're all kind of, and so now you want to attract a new relationship. First of all, the first thing is, again, to let go of all the stuff that came up in the previous relationship. So, for example, in the previous relationship, I was feeling anxious all the time, or it's not about the person. It's not, it's about you. Now you are creating, you are not waiting for the other person to make you happy. You're not waiting for the other person to be happy so that you can be happy. You're not, forget that. It doesn't work this way. When you want to create something, it starts with you. So how did you feel in the previous relationship? I felt, for example, you write it down. I felt I could not communicate because he didn't want to communicate. That's one line. I put all the stuff that didn't work on a piece of paper. I felt uh, invisible. I was like doing stuff, but like for example, so I was invisible. I didn't want to have sex anymore, but he did all the time. For example, that made me uncomfortable and also made me like that I wasn't fulfilling, my whatever duties or something, not duty, but whatever. And so that I didn't like that. So you write down all the things. That's step number one. All the things that didn't work for you in a previous relationship, put it on a long list and take your time. Once you have it all together, it's like line item, put it like a zip drive, in a zip drive, condense it all together and say, I ask. And then again, you have to do that work. You have, you have to take the time. I ask and intend to release all the frequencies, all the experiences that made me unhappy, that were misaligned with me in a previous relationship, from every cell in my body, every cell in my brain, my conscious, subconscious, cellular memory. Exhale. Again, visualize all kinds of stuff leaving the brain, leaving the body. It's all being dissolved. And then you say, and replace it with an energy of being like a clean slate, as if I have never had a relationship before. This is a totally new thing, new chapter in my life. I am a clean slate, and I'm totally open to a new adventure. If you can say that and feel 100% that you are ready, you are a clean slate, then you're good to go. So that's the first step, is for you to release the stuff that happened before. Step number two is to, how we say, like, I want the guy to be tall, dark, handsome, successful, so we have this, again, this programming that is the type of relationship I want to have with the guy. And so what is happening here? You are focusing on the other person. You're not focusing on you. And so, because you're the one who's creating, it's not the guy who's creating. So don't even go there. The next step is for you to write down on a piece of paper, once you've deleted all the old stuff. Next step, write on a piece of paper the way you want to feel in the new relationship. I want to feel loved and adored. I want to feel admired. I don't know, I'm just saying, I want to feel respected. I want to feel stimulated. I want to be stimulated. I want to be excited about stuff, even mundane stuff. Like I said, sometimes it's just little things that kind of keep, turn you on, how this person does that, the way they say that, the way they are. So I want to be stimulated. I want to feel, sorry. I want to feel stimulated. I want to feel successful. And what I mean by that, it's not about money. It's about feeling that what you're doing has an impact. So you could be a housewife. You don't have to, you could have a very small, whatever, anything. It's a feeling of being successful. It's not a monetary thing or a financial thing. So you write down on a piece of paper a long list of the way you want to feel in the relationship. I want to feel sexy. I want to feel sensual. I want to feel attractive. Whatever. So I want to feel beautiful no matter what time of the day, whether it's morning or, after my workout, whatever. You write down every single thing and take your time, because this list may take several days. So you may think of certain things, and then down the road, you may think of other things. So you write down the way you want to feel in a relationship. And then step 3, you can say, well, as long as I feel this, then the packaging, if the packaging comes, because you see, when you want to feel loved and adored, when you want to feel those things, then probably the guy is attractive enough, because do you see what I'm saying? Like, you don't have to say, I want the guy to be attractive and handsome. When you feel loved is because his energy is attractive enough that you feel loved. You see what I mean? So that's why there's a big difference for you to create outside of yourself and make the guy look a certain way, rather than start from the point of view of you creating it. Same with, I want to feel stimulated. I want to feel successful. So guess what? Then the guy is going to be fun, because you see, because you said, I want to be stimulated and I want to have fun. So you see how eventually the packaging comes together. And then you are allowing for that new dynamic to come through in a very authentic, in a very real way. It's really how I want to feel sexy. I want to feel sensual and spiritual at the same time. I don't want the guy to be turned off, for example. By the way, this is just for me as a side note. Don't start with I don't want. Start with what I do want. But what I'm saying is, for example, I don't want the guy to be turned off if I'm too spiritual, so I don't want to make a distinction or dissociate, my human sensual experience with my spirituality. Some guys are turned off. It's like, so again, all this to say, you bring it back to who you really are, what you want to feel. And before you know it, the packaging will be perfect for you. Does that make sense? All right, guys, I think that was a pretty good conversation. I hope this was helpful. And again, the bottom line is, don't be afraid. Stop being afraid of either parting ways, getting on a new path. I like that better. How about, this is my new chapter. I can't wait. Yes, there's going to be a few bumps. Of course, any transition, if you move houses, it's stressful. So splitting up with someone with all the feelings and emotion, of course, it's going to be a little stressful. It's just a transition. But eventually, I can focus past that and say, we're going to part ways. The two paths have been, our paths have been amazing together. But now the two paths are even more amazing, because I'm going to be happy, they're going to be happy, and we will be in alignment, and a very beautiful dynamic, new dynamic that will allow us to both be who we really are, and that is beautiful. So that is for the parting ways. And for those who are starting something new, same thing. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. As long as, see, that's what I feel like my, the way I kind of like this is to kind of stay safe. I don't know about safe, but I mean, to make sure I'm on the right track, if you will, is I always say, I want to attract this new relationship in alignment with my higher purpose. If it's not in alignment, it's not time, it's not happening, it is what it is. And so then it's almost like you trust that whatever you are creating, the new person, the new relationship is exactly in that alignment, that you are fulfilling your purpose, and it will be amazing. And so I want to say, not just don't be afraid, but it's like, why waste time? Because all of this is about you. It's about you figuring out who you are, what you have come to do. Why waste time? Why pretend that you're okay in this relationship, or you're okay being alone, justifying this, justifying that, when deep inside, you know very, very well what is going to be aligned for you and make you really happy. And so that is kind of my last thing. Don't be afraid. And also just trust, and don't waste time. Don't waste time. This whole situation, I keep saying this, brought up something very, very healthy, which is time is very short. It's going very fast, by the way. And it's like, what am I waiting for? Be with the people you love. Be with the people you love now, whether it's family, friends, romance, lovers. all the same. All right. It's all about love. So thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed this. You can keep your comments. Don't forget to subscribe. Come on, share this. It's free for you. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I hope to see you next time. And on the online conferences, don't forget to go to superhumanfilm.com or carolinecorey.com. Thanks very much.